Welcome back, you beautiful brave hearts all over the world. I've got a treat for you, okay? So, you know what? Let's just say that we should go to Mercy, Turkey right now. And we're going to go and spend some time with the prestigious Dr. Server. Now, understand, Dr. Server is head of research, okay? He is the head of research. He is the director of calcium ion therapy. Now, why would you be interested in that? You know, some people just, I don't like science. But guess what? When it comes to your health, when it comes to real science, and when it comes to calcium ions, I'm talking about real calcium ions. There'll be people out there that'll tell you that, oh yeah, we have ionic calcium. Oh, they certainly do. They have calcium. Okay, but it's not ionic. It might go through the stomach, but it doesn't go into the cells. Okay, they don't have true ions. When you actually see calcium ion therapy, you're actually looking and you're going, well, that just looks like a bottle of water. But what's in there is actually, and you're going to go, well, how do I know I'm getting it? Well, because guess what? For years, we've been carrying this therapy. It's actually the only real calcium product on the market. The rest are not truly calcium products, and you can believe it or not. Most of you are just taking calcium, about the same amount of absorption you get from the cement that they make for walls, you're taking it. And understand something, it might help you metabolically a little bit, but understand something, the most important and the most abundant mineral in the body is calcium. And you know this? Look it. I want to give you an example. And guess what? I hope you know that this show is going to be on. We're going to do another show next week, and then we're going to go every second week. And those of you that want to learn the greatest breakthrough in nutritional science, and I'm telling you, everybody says that, but guess what? You will see that beyond a shadow of a doubt that I am not making this up. Now, those of you who have seen a baby and watch a baby grow, have you ever seen how fast that baby grows? Seriously? Do you know what's happening? Every couple centimeters, that baby's bones are actually fracturing. They're fracturing. Oh, you know what Grandma said? She said, oh my God, I fell down and I fractured my bone. But what we don't know is that when you go to the doctor and they said she fell down and broke her bone, guess what? Most of the elderly people are not making new bone because they don't have any calcium ions, okay? And the reality is guess what? Their bones broke and then they fell. Most of the people that go to the hospital because, her hip broke. No, when she fell. No, she fell because her hip broke. And understand, let's get back to the baby. So now the baby's getting little fractures all the way along in the bones continually, 24/7. And every time there's a little fracture, there's a release of calcium ions. Those calcium ions make more calcium to fill in the crack, and that's why the baby's growing so fast. I bet you didn't know that. Now, guess what? Isn't it kind of funny? When you're in your teens, when you're in your early 20s, you're making all the calcium ions you could ever want. Oh my gosh, look at that, eh? Bone breaking, bone making, isn't that beautiful? Okay, and guess what? Then it starts to slow down around, more into the 25, 26, 27. It's already starting to slow down. Growth hormones starting to slow down. So now you're not making enough IGF-1, which is another amazing product that we carry. But we're not talking about that today. So the reality is what if you could take a product and you could actually be putting calcium ions in your body if you had the youth of a young child? What would that do when calcium ions carry on 120,000 hormonal and chemical processes per second? It is your body's greatest communicator, and without it, sometimes we lose communication. I can tell you honestly that every morning I get up, I take my Merigen. Okay, it's called Merigen, it's the strongest one. There's another one called Alzagen for brain problems. Okay, there's another one called Dentagen that will help to restore your jaw and your teeth. There's another one called one second. There's another one called Cardigan, and that's for your joints, okay? And then guess what? There's another one that's called Ozo Junior. That's for children. Okay, and whether you believe this or not, are you ready for this? We'll have children that parents come to us and go, he's not developing, she's not developing. The teeth are growing in wrong. I don't know what's wrong. And then we will put them on this product, and we will see that they will catch up. Things will straighten out, and it will catch up to the rest of the kids in the class. Okay, Rami, who is one of our practitioners, master practitioners, her son Henry, his teeth were growing up and they weren't coming down properly. They were going to spend thousands and thousands of dollars. You can't make this stuff up. Okay, and guess what? He was the shortest person in his class. How do you feel when you're 13 years old? So now, I know you're not going to believe me, but in 9 months, he grew 5 inches. Now, this isn't something that made him abnormal looking. He actually caught up to his height. That is what ions do. Calcium ions, they trigger things. And remember something, you can't see them. And this product, when you open it up, you got to put the lid back on. And when you take the product, no matter which one of them, you got to want to drink it on an empty stomach, and you want to drink that glass within 30 minutes because the ions could fly out. Now, you might think this all just sounds like a fairy tale to me, but the reality is if you saw how much money, how much science is behind this, and understand something, I'm going to let somebody talk that's way more intelligent than I am about this product. Okay, all I do is I know how it works. I see the miracles. You'd call them miracles, but they're not miracles because once you see it all the time and you do it. And understand, it is the most expensive product we sell. It is the most important product we sell because it costs so much money to actually make it. I can't teach you all of this today. I can't prove it to you all today. But right now we have a sale on, and we can never really put the product on sale, but if people buy it, we give them a credit to buy other Doc of Detox products. So we want to do the best that we can for people. You understand? We're trying to help everybody out there because people need help. But they need truthful information and they need correct information. And I want to introduce to you today Dr. Server, and he's going to be coming on next week as well. And we're live. So, if you want to bring your questions in from any of my platforms, Rumble, Facebook, X, Instagram, okay, or even Doc of Detox Telegram. All right? So let's get started and let's understand something. This is a true scientific medical breakthrough. Most medical breakthroughs, I'd like to say this without being disrespectful, are breakdowns. So let's hear what Dr. Server's got to say. And guess what? I think it's around 2 a.m. So let's congratulate him for getting up and actually coming and doing this show for me. Good day, Dr. Server.
Hello, how are you, Dr. Wolf?
Well, you know what? I'm doing better because you're on my show.
Thank you so much. You are very kind.
Our show, not my show. Always correct myself. This is our show, and I am hosting him, so I must be gracious and say, yes, it's ours.
Thank you so much. It's really a pleasure for me to be here. So talking about the scientific things with you will be very good for me. So I'm happy to be for patients in this show. So if it's okay with you, at the same time, I would like to share my screen for telling what are we doing, what is this subject. Okay, again, thank you for this opportunity to talk about aging. Before starting talk about aging and connection in our life, I want to emphasize aging is in our life, but the process is not going normal nowadays. We want to normalize this aging. So what is aging? Aging is basically, if we think about our body, it is finely tuned machine, but by the time, our cells are losing their efficiency, and DNA damage is causing, slowing the healing and increasing the disease risk our life. So aging is not just wrinkles. We are not talking about just skin. We are talking about how our body changed from the inside out. So what is behind this aging process? So every day we are facing with the stress, toxins, infections, poor nutrition, emotional things. So over the time, this wear and the tear slow down their ability to repair themselves, which is leading the sign of aging. So we want to find the reason of aging for solving this imbalance our life, hormonal shift, inflammation is increased, so minerals drift out of place, so disturbing the harmony that keeps us feeling younger. So how people are trying to work with the anti-aging, we can understand from the money they spend. It is more than 20 billion annually. So that means they want to live longer and feel younger. That's why they are spending this much money. So aging affects not just how we look, but it is also how we're living, staying healthy and active is what we all strive for. So if we look at the molecular levels, what happens as we age? As we age, subtle change began with the molecular level. So over the time, we are losing our efficiency, the repair from the cellular level. So always as a patient, we have to remember that molecular level is the key. If we see the problem from the cell level, then it is going to be easy to solve the problem. So in this case, we can see change in the cellular level with the calcium is causing an aging with abnormal way, with the faster way. So imbalance of the calcium is making faster our aging process. So calcium is a vital player in healthy aging, especially when we think about the vessels, muscle, or all our body. We have flexibility in our tissues, in our cells, especially if we want to focus on the vessel. For making this flexibility available all the time by the age, that means we need to think about restoring calcium balance. So if we don't restore this calcium balance, by the time we will lose this flexibility of the vessel, which means we are going to suffer from arteriosclerotic plaque. We are going to have a calcification on the vessel, which is the one of the worst place for having calcification. So calcium is much more than bone. We are not just talking about bone. So we are talking about building a strong bone, but it is also containing all the function of the bone with the calcium. And we are also talking about the communication between the cell with the properly as we age. We have lots of mechanism in our cell for this calcium communication.
Dr. Server, so
Yeah.
when we're talking here, we're talking about the more anxiety, the more blue light, the more 5G, the more chemicals in the food, the more processed food that people eat, the more that they actually are pulling excess metabolic calcium from their bones, and that's where the osteoporosis comes from, the osteoarthritis. That's where we get the calcium, even the calcium stones called gallstones in the gallbladder, calcium stones that we call kidney stones. And this is because we're way too acidic. And calcium is to buffer down and alkaline all the way down into the cellular level. And the more alkalinization you need, the more you're going to draw that metabolic calcium, but nothing's going to work like calcium ions. And the problem is that a lot of people, they quit making calcium ions because they're so out of balance or so toxic, correct?
That's for sure. That's a great explanation. So it is kind of explaining scientific reality in this show. That's for sure. So calcification is in everywhere. We want to stop that calcification. We want to correct that communication.
Well, we want, sir, if I'm okay, we want to stop such a pull of calcium out of the bones, especially because if you don't have the ions, everyone, you're not replacing it. So a lot of people will go on a medication, right, to stop losing bone calcium. And what happens is when you do that, your bones get brittle and you break apart because you can't mess around with that. So, you know, how many people are on medication so that they won't lose any more calcium? But guess what happened? The bones get old, the bones get brittle, they're not replacing themselves like your body replaces cells. You have to replace the cells and you have to replace the bones, or else you will age too fast. Sir?
That's correct. So I wish to teach this reality even in the elementary school. They should know that calcium bone is the calcium bank. So we are losing our calcium constantly every day because, as you said, from the bone, we are taking our calcium all the days. Okay, guess what? You will have a very high risk of fracture because you are losing your own calcium from the bone. We want to stop that road for solution and for reversing calcium to put in the bone. Yeah,
absolutely. So, and even just not even the bone, but guess what? I told you guys, if you don't have the vitality in your body to actually make the calcium ions, what's happening to the 120,000 hormonal and chemical processes per second? Well, guess what? We got miscommunication because calcium ions, okay, is the biggest, how can I say this? The biggest signaler to make communication proper throughout your whole body, right down to a cellular level, in your brain, everywhere, everywhere.
That's correct, Dr. Wolf. Yeah. So let's keep talking about calcium and how it is bridging, because calcium signaling is making calcium very unique. If we look at all the elements in our body, we can see that calcium is very unique. It has calcium signaling mechanism. It is bridging the gap between aging and cellular vitality. So calcium has amplitude modulation, frequency modulation, just like a radio that we have in our home. So with calcium, movement from one side to other side is making possible to have a communication between cells. So we want to keep going with this communication for our cellular vitality. So calcium ion is a game changer in aging. We want to use calcium for changing this aging game. So if calcium is not enough in the muscle or in our tissue, then we will suffer from this calcium ion deficiency, which means we have to restore this calcium signaling for rejuvenating the cellular function and clearing calcium buildup. So not just muscle, also all cells need to use calcium. So calcium is core. calcium for lots of people might be the topic about the bone and teeth, but it is not that. It is also containing information about muscle and heart contraction. It is working for stem cell regulation, differentiation, neurotransmitter, lots of immune function, gene regulation, epigenetic regulation, cell cycle and repair, autophagy. So tons of function is working with the ionic calcium. The two is showing that we are talking about the active ionic calcium. So only active ionic calcium is physiologically active in our body. So if we look at the blood, only 50% of calcium is active. So all the time we need to use this calcium. So poor our bone is ready for giving that precious calcium for all the function that we need. So for this calcium regulation, parathyroid glands are working for tightly regulating this calcium. So why calcium is very precisely regulated? Well, because trillions of cellular process is working with the calcium. So if there is no calcium, then trillions of cells will suffer from lots of issue. We want to solve their problem. So even with the 0.1 milligram change is very important for our body. It is directly thinking that, okay, I have to regulate this calcium. I have to find this very low level of calcium even with our hormonal response. So let's say calcium is high and then hormones are trying to reduce that calcium level in the blood. If it's low, then calcium has to be increased by the parathyroid hormone or calcitonin with the organs, renal, kidney, intestine, and bone. These are working for this hormonal balance. So if we have calcium dysfunction, this is going to lead mitochondrial dysfunction. Mitochondria is very important for us for energy production, for cellular health, and also for feeling very strong, for not having fatigueness. We have to work with our mitochondria. So calcium accumulation is going to cause lots of problem in mitochondria. Mitochondrial dysfunction caused by calcium dysregulation is bringing cellular calcification. So
We lost him. Okay, let's see if he comes back on with you. All right, everyone, we've lost Dr. Server, and I'm hoping he comes back. But hey, I guess, Wi-Fi in Turkey at 2 in the morning is kind of baked. I don't know. Well, we're going to see if he comes back on or not. But let me talk, before he comes, okay? So here, I want to show you some stuff. So first of all, I'm going to show you the strongest one of all. Well, this is actually the strongest of all of the calcium ion therapy products. This is called AIC-SG. It stands for stealth glucose. I'm going to tell you a story that's going to blow your mind. And I mean it. It will. Okay? All right? Okay. Here we go. So this one here is called Merigen. This was the strongest of all of them. This product here is used for every type of autoimmune illness. Every autoimmune illness that's going on. And I'm going to say something, and it's not about me. I don't cure anybody. But guess what? When you take massive personal action and you really use nutraceuticals, Doc of Detox only carries nutraceuticals, just like these are nutraceutical glasses. These are fullerene lenses. These have C60 molecule in here. All this blue light that's hitting these glasses, guess what? I'm actually getting the highest nutrition in light and frequency that you could actually get. And I'm wearing these. These aren't blue blockers. You can see them on my website. They're called Tesla Lightwear. Now let's get back to, we're going to bring Dr. Server on in a second. So this is called Merigen. Now this product here is used by people that have stage 1, 2, 3, and 4 inflammation. And we know what the medical system calls that, the big C. Now, also, even neurological diseases that they said that are irreversible, we've put people on this, and some kind of a coincidence, we saw huge changes in them. Even people that have gone to hospice that were told they had 3 to 4 weeks in there, and we put them on the Merigen, we put them on about 3 other products, and a lot of people would go home. I'm not telling you we cure anything. I'm trying to tell you people are out of balance. They're not at ease. All we do is restore what's been stolen. And one of the biggest thing is the calcium ions. And Merigen being the most powerful, but it isn't. This here is for patients, clients that are really in danger, okay? Because they're so close to the cliff. And this here is called stealth glucose. Okay, has anybody ever seen that movie where they got the Trojan horse and they came to the castle, they gave the king the Trojan horse as a gift, and they opened up the castle doors, and then the Trojan horse came in, and guess what? At nighttime, all of the soldiers came out of the Trojan horse, and they took the castle, and they won the war. Well, guess what? This product here is about 10 times stronger than the Merigen in concentration of a molecule. But understand, what does cancer like? What is the big C like? What does inflammatory cells like that are mutating or morphing, whatever you want to say, okay? They love sugar. What if we were to take the calcium ion, just like a Smartie? A Smartie has a candy coating and the chocolate in the middle. Well, let's say the chocolate in the middle was the calcium ions in a concentrate, and it was all coated, okay? It was coated with what? Glucose. Do you know what kind of magic and scientific genius that would take to take an invisible molecule? Do you know what kind of just think of the expense and the technology to take an invisible molecule, but it's there, it's not invisible, it's visible to the eye, and then actually get this 10-time concentration of the calcium ion of the Merigen, what was already the most powerful product that we know of on the planet for working and balancing, and then actually coat it with glucose. And then you have somebody take this, and guess what? So what cell grabs on to sugar faster than any normal cell? Well, that's the big C cell, right? The stage 4 inflammation. So guess what? When it grabs onto it, it just goes yummy, 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 yummy. Give me that sugar. And the sugar takes it right into the cell. And guess what? Just like that Smartie, you put it in your mouth, the candy coating comes off, and you're left with the chocolate. Well, guess what? The chocolate in this case is the concentration of the calcium ions. And guess what? That cell, being a C cell, okay, which we call stage 4 inflammation, is going, oh God, now what? Because now the cell has to decide. It's got to convert back into a normal cell, because that's what calcium ions do, or it's going to off itself and leave. So, anyways, Dr. Server, thanks for your patience. I just thought I'd tell a little story, okay, a little fairy tale, and it's not a fairy tale, it's the truth. Anyways, let's get back to the show. That might give some people a few things to think about.
Yep. Thank you so much. Sorry for this break. And I really appreciate for this opportunity to talk about cellular calcification. I know that cellular calcification is not something visible. Because of that, it might be not important for some people, but we have to find cellular calcification in our life, maybe without sign, but we are suffering from cellular calcification, calcium signaling dysfunction, mitochondrial dysfunction, oxidative stress. All these are bringing degenerative disease our life, cancer, autoimmune disease, metabolic syndrome, cardiac disease. So we want to solve this problem with calcium dysregulation because as the age, we are suffering from all the issues about the calcium. So calcium pump will slow down, which is allowing calcium to build up and quietly stress the cell. That means we don't have any symptom, but we are suffering from cellular calcification. We have to restore this calcium signaling problem and protect our cell because calcium keeps neuron connected. When it is when we have a problem with the balance, our synaptic signaling will weaken, which is leading memory loss and higher risk of Alzheimer's, and all type of neurodegenerative disease are going to come with dysregulation of calcium signaling. So look at this research. It is explaining the stronger bone lead to healthier life. In Denmark, this study showed that age after 50 live 11 years longer if they have strong bone. So also for kids who is suffering from calcium deficiency, about 30% of this infant experience lasting deficiency symptom despite breastfeeding. So we want to solve this calcium issues from bone to tissue. We want to reverse that from soft tissue to the bone. So for our aging journey, mitochondria is very important. Too much calcium is causing too much problem. Excessive calcium is going to bring calcium concentration inside the mitochondria with lots of free radical. It will stop the
Okay, bring me on, please. All right, so I think we lost Dr. Server again, but Dr. Server was talking about mitochondrial dysfunction. And I'm going to tell you something right now. The mitochondria are the powerhouse of the cell. There's been a lot of talk about it lately. People are waking up to it. You know, they always thought that the nucleus was the brain, the powerhouse, but the nucleus isn't. The nucleus was just the gonads. There you go, there's something. But guess what? We found out that it was actually the mitochondria that were the powerhouse of the cell, the brain of the cell. But here's the deal. When you have a toxic lifestyle, okay, guess what happens? Your cells will eventually get toxic. And that inside of the cell that used to have oxygen supply, it had mineral supply, enzyme supply, communication was going on beautifully because guess what? You're making lots of ATP, and ATP is energy. I'm going to tell you about this. So now if you're not getting the calcium ions to your cells, you don't get the proper communication without that. And also if you don't get calcium ions into your cells, then guess what? You start pulling metabolic calcium into your cells from your bones. And that's not a good thing because when that calcium goes into your bones, okay? I mean, when it comes out of your bones and goes into your cells, guess what it does? It causes friction. So when that calcium comes into the cells, guess what happens? Your mitochondria are supposed to spin 2,500 times per second. Oh God, let me see if I can spin once per second without falling on the floor. They're supposed to spin 2,500 times per second. And guess what happens? That calcium causes them to spin, and somebody that has a chronic illness, it might be spinning just 300 to 500 times. Now, when it only is spinning 300 to 500 times and not doing the 2,500 times, a 75 kilogram man needs to make 85 kilograms of actual ATP, and you're not going to do it. The person that's sick, they're in bed, they're sick, and guess what? It's the only thing that's going to heal them. The only thing to get them out of that bed is energy. The only thing that's going to give them the energy is if we can decalcify the mitochondria, because that's like rust on a hinge. It can't spin. So if we can give them the calcium ions, and we get the calcium ions into the cell, which is very easy, okay, for calcium ion therapy, it's going to go in, it's going to decalcify the mitochondria. They'll start spinning their 2,500 times. Now you're making the ATP, which makes the energy. And understand something. When we have no energy, we're not even existing anymore. When we have hardly any energy, we're in bed and we can't get out. And then guess what? Almost every therapy that I know of, outside of people that think like I do, they don't give anything for people to give them energy. My God, let's stop giving people just hope, because hope don't float. Okay, let's give people real science, real knowledge, and we can prove this whole thing. And that's the whole deal. You need to understand something. Every practitioner out there wants to help you, but you can only give what you've been taught. And some people have been taught stuff that is not so good. Everything is vibration. And understand, a calcium ion is one of the most highest vibrational things that you can put in the human body. Dr. Server.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you for talking about calcium. And I was also saying that mitochondria is very important. So calcification is the huge problem with the visible or invisible level. So we want to solve this damage. So with the restoration of the calcium, this problem will solve in our body. So cellular calcification is causing lots of disease. So etiology is coming from that. So look at this book.
Can I, Dr. Server, can I let everybody know? Please write your questions down. We're almost at a point where we're going to start asking them. So if you've got any questions, write them down. Thank you. Go ahead and send them in, I should say.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So that's why calcium is basically explaining increasing intracellular and extracellular level of the calcium is causing all chronic degenerative disease. It is also increasing intracellular oxidative stress, which is the one of the most important reason for aging. So we want to solve this problem. We are trying to work with calcium, but if you are not working with the ionic form of calcium ion therapy, that means you are working with the typical calcium, protein bound, needs vitamin D, it needs to go to the small intestine, digestion is needed, and yet there is nothing will go into our body. It will be inactive form of calcium. It will produce extra cellular calcification. Nothing will happen. So ionic calcium deficiency is going to happen, just like Dr. Wolf said. So dysregulation of the cellular calcium signaling is causing lots of psychiatric disease, bipolar disease, and neurodegenerative disease. We have to solve this imbalance. So calcium deficiency is bringing bone resorption, cellular calcification, as a result, calciumopathy, which means diverse group of disease caused by disruption of calcium. So if we are living in this world, that means we are having lots of reason for our life for aging faster, such as toxins, infections, genetic issues, environment. So we have to solve this problem because these are bringing calciumopathy. So we have to reverse this calciumopathy for stopping disease progression. Well, how can we reverse this cellular calcium dysfunction? Principle of calcium ion therapy is restoring the cellular calcium signaling and reversing this calciumopathy, because calcium ion therapy is very different than normal calcium. On the right side, we have normal calcium, but it hasn't got any electrical polarity. So we need active form of calcium, which has antibonding, which has weak antibonding. That means calcium is going to be ready in our body for to use. So what is this technology? It is anti-orbital bonding that is making possible to separate calcium from our body to use. For that reason, Dr. Wolf is saying that this is the only calcium that is available in our body. We can get tons of calcium without any function, but only with calcium ion therapy, this anti-orbital ionic calcium can get in the blood as an active form of calcium for our body. So we don't have to worry about any issues, any side effect. There is no health risk. It is only 5 to 8 milligram calcium. As the medical doctor, sometimes they might think, is there any hypercalcemia? This is very low level, and yet very powerful for triggering our own hormonal response, such as endogenous calcitonin. For this product, it is also worth to say that it is very strong antioxidant. It is driving cellular dysfunction because of oxidative stress. We want to solve this problem with calcium modulation treatment. So we are triggering our own hormonal system for treating ourselves. We are not just giving a 2 kilogram calcium. We are giving a well enough calcium for regulation of the calcium in our body to increase bone turnover. So not just the cellular level, for see with our eye, we can see calcification, which is appeared as a pain or a movement disorder. So such as calcific tendinitis, when we use active ionic calcium treatment, less than 2 months, we can see it has disappeared. So we want to work for patients to use calcitonin as a cellular decalcification. Calcitonin is reducing the calcium level, but medical researchers were thinking to give calcitonin directly to that patient, but it didn't work because it is causing a problem with the hormonal response. So we are using our own endogenous calcitonin for regulation of this calcium for our patients' problem, for reducing bone resorption, increasing the bone formation, which means putting calcium to the bone with osteoblastic activation. So for calcium problem, lots of time issue is like osteoporosis, but I don't want to say osteoporosis is the issue. The issue is there is a silent thief. We don't know that we are having a problem with the calcium. So osteoporotic patients are not having any symptom. Only they can see with the doctor's test, such as DEXA scan, it might show T-score is very low. So for patients, when we use calcium ion therapy, we saw that how it is changing, increasing the T-score for patients' health with lots of example, with very high change like 2.0 with T-score increase, which means tremendous result with 3 months for osteoporotic patient. More than 100 individual has changed their T-score with using anti-orbital ionic calcium. It is also affecting the stem cell by this calcium, because for aging, stem cell is another approach for doctors. So calcium influx is activating this calcium signaling pathway. We want to activate this calcium signaling for stem cell activation. Also, this endogenous calcitonin is activating the stem cell activity. So lots of pathway is working for calcium in our body to make this process much more faster. So as we age, VTN pathway name is not important, but the function is important, because in our body for renewing our cell, it is working for dividing the cell, repairing the cell in lots of dimension. So we have to work this VTN pathway for solving problem with the stem cell activation. So stem cell therapy is also necessary with the calcium. We want to work with the calcium. As we age, we can also suffer from not having chance for dental implant because bone, if there is a problem with the bone, which means you are losing your bone mineral density, then you will lose your chance for dental implant. So active ionic calcium is also solving this problem. Let's say we have thin jawbone, so problem will solve with active ionic calcium between 3 months to 7 months. So we should see that movement also in the jawbone. Also with the neurodegenerative disease, we are increasing our neuronal synapse. We are talking about Alzheimer patient, depression, autistic kids, and also Parkinson and multiple sclerosis. We want to solve all this problem with increasing neuronal synapse, stabilizing the cellular calcium homeostasis. So if we dive into calcium, we can see lots of dimension with our life, not just aging, also disease are driving by the calcium signaling. Let's look at this case, age 74. So male patient diagnosed with dementia, also patient in 1999 had hernia and slip disc. He was running 45 kilometers weekly. After the dementia, he wasn't even able to find his way to home. So after starting to use ionic calcium treatment, patient's outcome was getting better and better day by day. He was able to remember conversations. So he was planning to have a kneecap surgery and they canceled. It wasn't necessary. He could walk, run more than 10 kilometers, walk more than 10 kilometers without stopping. So at the end, he was walking 40 kilometers weekly. This is just an example. We have lots of case report. So also autoimmunity has a connection with the calcium ion. It is also silent disease. Until certain age, we don't see the connection between autoimmune disease and calcium. But with the patient who use AIC, who use calcium ion therapy, they can see the result. Just like this patient, problem was solved. Problem was solved for psoriasis case. Because we are changing in the molecular level of the autoimmune disease. We are working with these tiny molecules because these are regulated by the calcium. So calcium is also important. Calcium ion is a ubiquitous and versatile signaling mechanism. Because this is very important. Why? Because calcium has a connection with the cancer, because we want to solve the cancer. Lots of times cancer patients are coming very late. So it is very sad for them. So cancer has very important relationship between calcium. Just like Dr. Carl said, cancer as the ultimate adaptation of ionic calcium deficiency. So if we solve this ionic calcium deficiency, then we can find the remission for this calcium deficiency for cancer patient. Because as Dr. Wolf said, breaking acid cycle, because cancer cells are also covering themselves as an acid cycle. So with ionic calcium, we are breaking this acid cycle. We are neutralizing the ammonium for another source of energy, just like glucose. Yes, glucose is one of the energy source, but also glutamine is another source of energy. So we are also preventing that side. Also, we are initiating the mitochondrial function for preventing P53. Another case for multiple myeloma, which is very tough case. This type of case are very having lots of issue with kidney, lytic lesion, and anemia. But when we use AIC for this patient, calcium ion therapy, so patient just had result from renal issue, also T-score was increased. GFR came to the 62, which is normal range. All the parameter was showing patient is getting better. Because calcium is binding to the lactic acid in the molecular level, then we are solving the issues. Dr. Wolf, would you like to add something, or would you like to say also something about the cancer while we are here?
Yes, and that is, it's always been about oxygenation, and Dr. Otto Warburg got the Nobel Prize, the only person who got the Nobel Prize for discovering the cause of cancer, which is oxygenation, where the oxygen is deprived from the cell by 35% or more for any more than 3 days. It doesn't want to die, so then it has to live off the lactic acid, okay, and the sugar that's in the body, and that's what it does because it has more of that than it does of the oxygen. And we know this, that the ion molecule, calcium ion molecule, once it gets into the cell, you have to understand, it is one of the greatest carriers and helping to balance out that oxygenation again. It's always alkaline versus acid. And the reality is once you become really acidic and you start having your tissues morphing, because, and the reality is I'm not discounting anybody, but I don't really believe in cancer. I believe in the fact of lack of oxygen. I don't believe that cancer spreads. I believe inflammation spreads. I believe that the so-called deficiencies of oxygen, the deficiencies of calcium ions, the deficiencies of minerals, but you can't show me any study where cancer cells are just rampant and taking off and spreading. No, what happens, I believe, is that the cancer that started here and now it's over here, the person was inflamed and acidic, and that was just the next weak link to break. And that's what I believe. But you know what? Everybody can believe whatever they want to believe, just like cancer's genetic, okay, and cancer runs rampant and we can't keep it down. Oh, and the other thing too is this. We have to increase the circulation in the body to decrease the circulation or the actual growth of this so-called problem, which is inflammation, which is acidity, which is lack of oxygen and minerals and anything that's got any life to do with it. I mean, listen to me. There's no such thing as turbo cancer. There's such thing as people are being poisoned. All right? But we got to give it all this, you know what? Enough of the BS. Okay? Cut the BS. And you know what? I tell people, why don't you just challenge me on this stuff? The reality is 1 and 1 or 2, they're not 11, and understand that. And you know what? I don't care how many degrees a person has or how long they went to school. You can program anybody to believe anything. And the reality is if we don't give back the power to the people, that they can take massive personal action and start being their own practitioner or at least their own hero. That's about all I have to say.
Yep. Thank you so much. So
Right.
Cancer is really hard for patient. I can understand them. So for such as lymphoma, this is stage 4. This is why I did this slide, because lots of the patients are coming very late. They are not aware of the cancer. So for this patient, we use 4 times a day treatment for calcium ion therapy. So normally for lymphoma case, we can see this result only with the surgery, but without surgery, only with using this treatment, patient had this result within 1 year, just naturally drained. So this is very powerful, another case. So just like Dr. Wolf said, so this Nobel Prize winner scientist was also mentioning autophagy in the cellular stress. So we want to solve this cellular stress. So we want to live long, but we also want to live healthy. So cellular aging is key. We want to solve this problem on the cellular level. So for disruption of the calcium balance is the key for aging. So if we solve that problem, if we restore the cellular balance, we will enhance the communication, we will repair the tissue and facilitate this decalcification, which is essential for longevity and vitality. So calcium homeostasis is the key for ageless living. So we want to optimize our cellular function and promote longevity, laying the foundation of vibrant, healthy future. So I want to say thank you for giving this chance to Dr. Wolf. If there is any question, I will be happy to answer.
You know that when we did this, we basically answered everybody's question here for today. But everyone, we are going to be back here next Thursday, and it is at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay? So you might want to jot that down in your notes. And then we will be coming on every second week, and we will be picking different topics. So feel free, as we do the shows, to let us know what topics, what questions that you have so that we can give you the right answers. And we won't be just talking about a product, we'll be talking about a lifestyle, we'll be talking about diet, we'll be talking about different things, exercise, different things that you can do, because remember, it's up to you, and we need to take massive personal action on our own health, okay? So what I'd like to do, if it's okay with you, I'm going to run through just what the products are, and if you'd like to say something about them. Let's talk about, this is AIC-SG, which is stealth glucose. Would you like to say something about that, sir?
Yeah. AIC-SG is the stealth glucose. So basically, AIC-SG is hiding calcium inside the glucose for cancer patient. So we are using as a Trojan horse. Just the technology is, the strategy is behind the PET-CT. If we look at the PET-CT strategy, they are using glucose for detecting cancer. We are using same strategy for killing, destroying cancer cell with AIC-SG. So for cancer patient, we are using AIC-SG with AIC combination therapy. This AIC-SG is not using calcium channel. So if there is a calcium channelopathy, we don't have to worry about that. It is using glucose channel for getting to the cellular level.
And in a situation when people have like what we would call stage 4 inflammation, they call it the big C, people will usually use these two in combination, okay? And understand something. If you're interested, and I say this now and I'll say it again, I would prefer that everyone calls me directly. And I will do a consult with you to make sure this is done properly. So you can, everyone, my phone number is 469-861-9454 on WhatsApp or USA Direct, or you can call our 1-800 on extension 5, comes right to me. Okay? The next product I'll talk about, and it's quite amazing, it's called Dentagen, sir.
Yeah, Dentagen is made for dental issue. It is not just dental issue because of the bone issues, it is bringing lots of dental issues. So Dentagen should be used 3 times a day. If, let's say, we have periodontitis, if we have different type of infections, or dental implant is not possible, then we can use 3 times a day Dentagen for our patient. This will be the appropriate product.
Yes, when you use Dentagen, understand everything. Everybody, you need to understand that your teeth are bones. That's the first thing. You can actually lose your teeth without eating sugar if you have an acidic condition in your body. Even somebody who has anxiety all the time will eat away their bones and their teeth. okay, and understand that. You can do it to your jawbone. And in your jawbone is where you make the most stem cells, is in this area. And the reality is this Dentagen will trigger that. And you wait till you see, well, it really is an amazing product. I mean, you can do your own research. If you go into the Braveheart Nation app, or otherwise bhnapp.com, and you go into the Evolve section, you're going to see we have a lot of different videos there with all the different conditions and how the products are used, and it's inside there. You'll also find information in the pdgfree.com guide. pdgfree.com stands for Perfect Day Guide. But anyways, we'll have people, even when they have a real serious condition and they feel like their teeth and their jawbones are falling apart, they will use, again, combination of Merigen and Dentagen if it's not so severe, okay? And understand something, you'll know the difference. You'll see it. It's not like you have to wait months and months and months. But the reality is we know that if you support yourself with proper detox, a proper nutritional diet, okay, and also learn techniques to reduce your stress, to reduce the acidity, you give the product a lot of better chance to actually work. So when you take massive action, create a perfect day, this product is going to work. It's not like, well, maybe it'll work, maybe it won't work. It'll work differently on people because some people don't even know it. They think that having anxiety is part of their personality. I mean, it's how much fear is in your life will depend on how much acid is in your body. And I'm telling you right now, you get rid of the fear, you get rid of the acidity. That's it. Okay? If you can be in the present moment and own it, you can heal yourself 10 times quicker. And then you can stay there. Remember something, personality causes reality. So if you have a personality and you think, oh, well, God gave me this, it's got to be crazy. You got your personality from your mom and your dad and the 5 peers that have been around you the most went up from 0 to 7. And that's it. So the reality is that your personality could be undermining your health for your whole life. You could be 80 years old and it's the belief systems you learned when you were young, but you just never did any changing. So that means we'd have to take more of the product because we have to supersede, okay, the personality that you have that because you didn't make changes. Remember, if you want different in your life, you become different. You do different. You are different. Okay? So this one's called Alzagen.
Alzagen is for neurodegenerative disease, especially Alzheimer patient. It is affecting our neuronal system. We have to remember that we also have a tiny machines called microtubule. So our neurons need energy. So we have very long neurons. So for moving our energy source, which is mitochondria from one side to other side, we need microtubule. So this is going to give that energy to the microtubule with ionic form of calcium. So Alzagen is working for all neurodegenerative disease.
And I know that I just want people to understand something. Again, I'll tell you, there's no such thing as a cure. This is not a cure product. This is a product that helps to bring balance to your cells.
That's
if it
right.
brings balance to your cells, then it's like, what's missing? Okay? We get symptoms and then diseases because symptoms turn into diseases, but the symptoms are messages from our body that something's missing. We're out of alignment. And whether you believe it or not, all the way from A to Z, every autoimmune disease and almost every symptom, this product actually affects it. I already told you, calcium ions, they do 120,000 different hormonal chemical processes in every second of your life. And when you come in and you do front end loading, it's just like, okay, we're here, we're back, okay? All right, this one's called Cardigen.
Yeah. Also, before saying Cardigen, you were saying that acidic environment is very important. I want to add one sentence. Lots of people know that alkalinization is very important. So they are trying to take lots of water. So that's important. But what is different between calcium ion therapy and other old things is this is working in the molecular level. This is changing the pH in the cell level. So on that cell level, we have to make alkaline for solving these acidic issues. So when we come to cartidgen, this is working for arthritis, for autoimmune disease, for joint issues. We can use cartidgen such as rheumatoid arthritis, degenerative arthritis, osteoarthritis, pain that is causing by the different type of arthritis. We can use cartidgen for that.
Thank you. And again, I'll give you my phone number, but I'll type it into the show after. 855-900-4544, extension 5. That's the toll free. If you want to call me USA Direct, it's 469-861-8884. And you can call me on WhatsApp or USA Direct. Or you can, if you have an iPhone, I have an iPhone too. So that is how you get in touch with me. And also, if you have trouble getting in touch with me or you forget the numbers or something like that, don't worry. My staff will give you the phone number and we will talk. All right? Okay, I'm approachable and I just want you to know this. We want the best for you. And it isn't about just selling the product. I want you to understand, try to download my pdgfree.com guide, everyone. This is it right here. Look. You download, it's 585 pages. It'll like, everything's explained there about ionic calcium, but guess what? How about this? There's a whole recipe book in here. There's everything you need to do from your toes to your nose, okay? All right? So we don't want to just sell you product. We want you to be invested. We want you to be invested. We want you to be in the driver's seat. Massive personal action, okay? That's what we need to do. Megagen?
Megagen is a maintenance product. So lots of time patients are coming for lots of issues, but for healthy individual, only for healthy individual, for this type of reason, we are using Megagen for very young, you can say young age, if they don't have any osteoporotic issues. When I say maintenance, I'm not talking about patient have an issue but don't have any symptom. That is going to be a treatment side. It's not working with that way. So we are going to work with the healthy individual. If you don't have any health problem, then we should go with the maintenance for calcium regulation with this Megagen.
And remember something, everybody, the more that you have inflammation, okay, the more inflammation that you have in your body, the more calcium you're going to draw from your bones. And understand this, your body loves you, and if it couldn't draw from the calcium bank, you wouldn't be here right now. That which created the body knew to make, which is our creator, made calcium the most important mineral. And we have a lot of it, but you know what? We're wasting it when we start eating processed food. We're wasting it every time we react and attack ourselves, or we become fearful, or we get angry about what the government does, or this does, or that does. If you want to stay healthy, mind your own business. And that would be looking after yourself, caring for yourself. Ozzo Jr., sir.
Also, Junior is for kids, for their development. So sometimes we can think that my kids is not that tall. So for short kids, for development of the kids, we are working with the also Junior. So if kids has any disease or any degenerative problem, we can go with the Maragen. But if there is no health issue for development, we can use also Junior for kids.
If you want your children to really spark their brain, their intellect, and really develop everything that they can possibly be when they're young. Ozzo Jr. is the key. And like Dr. Server said, if you have a situation, then you want to pull out Marigen, and then you want to go in. And then you're using a teaspoon of this product for the average adult. So if your child weighed 50 pounds, we would go 1/3 of a teaspoon, and we would also reduce the water intake. For an adult, we're looking at 16 ounces of water and 1 teaspoon of the product. So you go by weight, and then you use the math on both the product and intake of the water. And when you take this, you take it a half an hour before meals or more, and then you wait, okay? You either do it then or you do it like you do it. Okay, so we don't want to eat, okay, a half an hour prior or half an hour after. And allow the ion therapy to go in and do what it needs to do. And trust me, okay? You don't need to eat that much anyway, okay? I eat 1 meal a day, and that's all I do. The rest of the day is liquid. Is that the truth? Nobody ever sees me eat all day long, okay? But I will do a blender drink. If you want to call that eating, I'll do some juicing sometimes. But basically, and I need everyone to understand this, and you're going to think this is a sales pitch. And guess what? Like all the other times, I've been at this for 40 years, and you can believe that I have integrity or I have none. Within 5 years, 3 to 5 years, people are going to go, Dr. Wolf was on the money. When he said take 30% of our grocery bill and buy nutraceuticals, he was right. And I'm patient. I'm going to wait because I'm going to hear it. It's going to be 3 to 5 years because there's going to be a lot of not nice stories coming out in the next 3 to 5 years. But because understand this, there was a major study done, and only 2% of the food in supermarkets is edible. Only 20 to 30% in a health food store is edible. So if you can get pure nutraceuticals, because everything you eat and everything you drink leaves the body, the only thing that stays behind is the frequency, the vibration, and the light. So we are talking about a high advanced product that is super concentrated in when we talk about light, electricity, and frequency. And that's it right there. So how many people do you know are eating all the time and they're not that healthy? How many people do you know that are eating all the time and even trying to do organic and they're not that healthy? Because if it's not in the soil, it's not in the food. And if it's not in the food, it's not in you. So I'm not telling you to take all your money. And I'm trying to tell you, whether you come to me or you go to someone else, you better be thinking nutraceuticals. Because everything has always been about vibration. Everything has always been about light. Okay? And you need to look at that. And all of that is what turns into the greatest asset is energy. Okay, when you got no energy, you've got no life. Dr. Server?
That's for sure. Energy is the key. So mitochondria is the key for solving all this cellular vitality problem.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. And what time is it there now?
It's 2:16 a.m.
Okay. Well, I say good night, sleep tight.
Thank you so much. It was a great honor for me to have this good time. I hope we will see you very soon next week. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And God bless, my friend.
Thank you so much. You too.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Take
Thank
care.
you. Bye. Bye-bye.
All right, everyone. Well, that was the first show with Dr. Server. And as you can tell, we're talking about a man with a big heart. And, and the reality is I said today, we can't make you get out of bed at 1 o'clock in the morning and do these shows. And he said, that's fine. But no, we're going to do the show at 9 Eastern. And then that's going to allow him to do the show at 6 at night. But, isn't it something? Human beings are so beautiful. We are all so beautiful. And understand something, our health, our wealth, our way of living is being undermined. But what if we came together as a Braveheart nation? Wouldn't that be just the most beautiful thing? I'm going to tell you, I'm not going to stop dreaming, okay? And I just want the best for you. I don't need to know you to tell you that I love you. And thank you for joining me. And just know if you're interested. If you're interested, we have our authentic sale on right now, which is like a Black Friday sale, but we like to do it at the new year when people really need, because they're thinking about their health and they want to protect themselves after they kick the living crap out of themselves from Thanksgiving to from Halloween to Thanksgiving to Christmas to New Year's, and now everybody's going to go around and say now they've got some kind of cold and flu when it's just the body trying to detox. I'll just tell you one last thing. You will never hear of me having a disease. You'll never hear of me having a cold or a flu. And understand something. That's real science. I was created by God Almighty, and I'm going to act like it. 3, 2, 1, you got this. Love you, everyone.